Pregnant wife discovers husband's affair. During her checkup, then her millionaire sibling arrives. The sunlight poured through the sheer white curtains of the Lawrence home, dancing on the polished oak floors of the living room. Mia Lawrence stood in the kitchen, her hands cradling a cup of chamomile tea. The gentle scent of the herbs soothed her nerves, but the knot in her stomach lingered. It was prenatal checkup day, a day she'd circled on her calendar months ago. She looked down at her growing belly and gently stroked it. "Almost there, little one," she whispered, a smile playing on her lips. The baby kicked in response, as if answering her. It filled her with hope. For Mia, this baby wasn't just a child, it was a symbol of everything she had worked so hard for: stability, love, and a future free from the chaos of her own childhood. Her husband, Ryan Marshall, breezed into the room, buttoning his tailored Hugo Boss shirt. He was a tall man, with sharp features and the kind of charm that could disarm anyone. Ryan was a successful real estate developer who thrived in the fast-paced world of Manhattan's high-stakes property market. Today, however, he seemed preoccupied, his eyes glued to his phone as he replied to what looked like an endless stream of texts. "Big day, huh?" Mia ventured, trying to draw his attention. "Oh, yeah." "Huge," Ryan replied distractedly, glancing up just long enough to flash a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He set his phone down for a moment to pour himself a cup of coffee. "Listen, I've got a few back-to-back meetings, but I'll try to make it to the appointment. Text me when you get to the clinic, okay?" Mia felt a pang of disappointment, but quickly brushed it aside. "Of course. Don't worry about it," she said, forcing a smile. She'd long learned not to press Ryan when he was in work mode. Later that morning, Mia sat in the waiting room of the Lenox Hill Obstetrics and Gynecology Clinic, flipping through a dog-eared copy of Parents magazine. The room buzzed with quiet chatter and the occasional laugh of a child clinging to a parent. The walls were adorned with cheerful posters of smiling babies and soft pastel designs meant to soothe anxious mothers. Mia Lawrence. A nurse called her name, and she rose with a practiced ease, clutching her leather handbag. She followed the nurse down a narrow hallway into a private examination room. Dr. Sophia Patel, her OB-GYN, greeted her warmly. "Good to see you again, Mia. How are you feeling today?" "Good," Mia replied, settling into the chair. "Tired, but that's normal, right?" Dr. Patel chuckled. "Very normal. Let's take a look and see how everything's progressing." The routine checkup went smoothly. As Dr. Patel moved the ultrasound wand over Mia's belly, the screen came to life with the grainy black and white image of her baby. Mia's breath caught as she saw the tiny hands move. "There's your little one, doctor," Patel said with a smile. "Strong heartbeat, healthy development. You're doing everything right." Mia felt a swell of pride and relief. She thanked Dr. Patel, made her next appointment, and stepped out of the clinic feeling lighter. But that lightness was short-lived. As Mia climbed into her car, her phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at the screen. $210 charge at Le Coucou. Her brow furrowed. Le Coucou was a Michelin-starred French restaurant in Soho, a place she and Ryan had visited once on their anniversary. The memory of that evening, a candle-lit table, wine flowing, Ryan's eyes focused entirely on her, felt like a lifetime ago. Mia frowned. Ryan hadn't mentioned going there for a meeting, and $210 was hardly a business lunch. Her instincts flared, but she told herself she was being paranoid. She decided to let it go. But as she started driving home, a thought nagged at her. Why would Ryan be at Le Coucou today of all days? Unable to shake the feeling, she made a sudden turn onto the FDR Drive, heading downtown. Parking a few blocks away, Mia walked toward Le Coucou, her heart pounding. She told herself she was overreacting, that Ryan would explain everything. She stepped through the grand brass doors into the restaurant's dimly lit interior, scanning the room, and there he was. Ryan sat at a corner table, leaning across the white linen toward a woman Mia didn't recognize. The woman was striking long blonde hair, a designer dress that screamed wealth, and a flirtatious smile that made Mia's stomach churn. Ryan reached across the table to touch her hand, his expression one of unguarded intimacy. Mia froze, her vision blurred, and for a moment it felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room. The baby kicked again, bringing her back to reality. She forced herself to move, to breathe, to think. She walked directly to the table, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. When Ryan saw her, his face went pale. The blonde woman looked confused, her smile faltering. "Mia, what are you doing here?" Ryan stammered, standing awkwardly. "What am I doing here?" Mia repeated, her voice trembling. "I could ask you the same thing." The blonde shifted uncomfortably. "Ryan, who is this?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Mia turned to her, her gaze icy. "I'm his wife," she said, letting the words cut through the air. She didn't wait for a response. The humiliation and betrayal were too much. She turned on her heel and walked out, her hands shaking. Back in her car, Mia sat gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down her face. The weight of the moment crushed her. She had built her entire life around Ryan and their unborn child, only to watch it crumble in an instant. As her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Liam Carter, her childhood best friend, she realized she wasn't entirely alone. But as the betrayal sank deeper into her heart, one thought consumed her. What now? Mia stared out the windshield, her vision blurred with unshed tears. The bustling streets of Manhattan seemed almost mocking in their indifference. Taxis honked, couples strolled hand in hand, and tourists snapped photos of the skyline, all unaware of the storm raging within her. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her back to reality. She glanced at the screen. It was a text from Liam Carter. "Hey, Mia. Just checking in. How was the checkup? Need anything?" Liam's timing was uncanny, as it always seemed to be. For as long as she could remember, Liam had been her anchor, a constant presence through the chaos of her youth. He'd been the one to sit with her on the steps of their old apartment building when her parents' fights became unbearable, the one to cheer her on at every milestone. But now, with her world crumbling, Mia hesitated to reach out. She wasn't ready to explain, to admit the raw truth of her situation. Not yet. She placed her phone face down on the passenger seat and let out a shaky breath. The Lawrence apartment was quiet when she returned. Too quiet. The sleek, minimalist space that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt cold and empty. The white walls and marble countertops seemed sterile, devoid of the warmth she'd tried so hard to cultivate. She set her keys down on the counter, her movements slow and deliberate, as if trying to delay the inevitable flood of emotions. Her gaze landed on the framed wedding photo that still sat on the side table in the living room. In the picture, she and Ryan stood in front of a sprawling vineyard in Napa Valley, the golden sun casting a halo around them. Her smile had been wide, genuine. His arm had been wrapped tightly around her, his grin full of promise. She picked up the frame, her fingers brushing against the glass. The memory felt like a cruel joke now. With a sharp inhale, she set the frame back down, face down this time, and sank onto the couch. The silence pressed against her like a weight. She didn't know how long she sat there, lost in thought, when her phone rang. The sudden noise startled her, and she fumbled to grab it. Liam's name flashed on the screen. Mia hesitated, her thumb hovering over the accept button. Finally, she swiped to answer. "Hey, Liam," she said, her voice quieter than she intended. "Mia, are you okay?" "You sound off," Liam said, concern lacing his tone. Mia bit her lip, unsure how to respond. She glanced at the wedding photo again, the image now hidden from view. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just tired." The checkup went fine. Liam didn't buy it. He never did. "Mia, I've known you since we were kids. That's not your fine voice. What's going on?" The dam broke. Her voice cracked as she said, I saw Ryan today, at Le Coucou. He was with someone else." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Liam's voice came, calm but firm. "Where are you now?" "At home," Mia replied, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I'm coming over," Liam said, leaving no room for argument. It wasn't long before the buzzer rang. Mia dragged herself off the couch and pressed the intercom. Moments later, Liam stepped through the door. He was as familiar as ever, dressed in his usual jeans and a navy sweater, his dark hair slightly tousled. But his expression was different, serious, protective. Liam crossed the room in a few strides and pulled Mia into a hug. She didn't realize how much she needed it until she was in his arms. The tears she'd been holding back spilled over, soaking his sweater. "It's okay," Liam murmured, his hand gently rubbing her back. "Let it out." For a while they stayed like that, Liam's steady presence grounding her. When she finally pulled back, she felt a little lighter, though the pain was still there, a dull ache in her chest. Liam guided her to the couch, sitting beside her. "Start from the beginning," he said. Mia recounted the events of the day, the checkup, the restaurant, the blonde woman. She stumbled over her words at times, her voice trembling, but Liam listened patiently, his expression darkening as she spoke. When she finished, he let out a long breath, leaning back against the couch. "That son of a—" he began, but stopped himself, clenching his jaw. "Mia, you don't deserve this. Not you. Not after everything you've been through." "I just don't understand," Mia said, her voice breaking. "I thought we were happy. I thought we were building something real." Liam reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "You are building something real. But Ryan, he doesn't deserve to be part of it. And trust me, you're not alone in this." Mia looked at him, a flicker of hope breaking through the despair. "What do you mean?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then said, "Ethan and Noah are in town. I'll call them. We'll figure this out together." The mention of Ethan and Noah brought back memories of the Carter brothers. They had always been larger-than-life figures, Ethan, the stoic eldest with an intimidating intellect, Noah, the artistic middle brother with a heart of gold, and Liam, her best friend, the bridge that connected them all. The idea of their support stirred something in Mia, a spark of strength she thought she'd lost. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she felt. As Liam made the call, Mia leaned back against the couch, her hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked again, as if reminding her of the life growing inside her. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could rebuild. Mia didn't know what to expect when Liam mentioned Ethan and Noah were coming over. The Carter brothers were like forces of nature, each powerful in his own way. She hadn't seen them in months, not since a charity gala they'd hosted downtown. Their lives, so polished and grand, felt like a world apart from hers now, yet the thought of their presence stirred a mixture of relief and apprehension. Sitting on the couch, she felt the weight of the day pressing down on her. The events at Le Coucou replayed in her mind like a loop she couldn't escape. Ryan's hand brushing against another woman's, his face filled with warmth and affection, the kind she thought was reserved for her. Every time the memory surfaced, it felt like another dagger in her chest. "Hey!" Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. He sat beside her, his phone resting on the coffee table. "They're on their way." Mia nodded but couldn't summon words. She stared at the wall, her mind adrift. It was Liam who filled the silence. "You know they're going to be mad, right?" he said softly. "Not at you, but at him." She glanced at him, her brow furrowing. "Liam, I don't need anyone to be mad for me. I don't even know what I need." "You need people in your corner," Liam replied firmly. "And you have us, all of us." His words carried a conviction that made her chest tighten. She wasn't used to leaning on others. Even with Ryan, she had always prided herself on being the strong one, the problem solver. But now, sitting in her living room, with everything falling apart, she realized how much she needed that support. An hour later, the buzz of the intercom broke the quiet. Liam stood, walking briskly to the panel. "Yeah?" he said into the microphone. "It's us," a voice replied Ethan's, low and commanding as always. Liam pressed the button to unlock the door, then turned to Mia. "Ready?" No, she wasn't. but she nodded anyway. Moments later, the front door opened and Ethan and Noah stepped inside. The contrast between them was striking. Ethan, in his tailored navy suit and black overcoat, exuded the sharp precision of a man who controlled empires. His salt and pepper hair and piercing grey eyes gave him an air of authority that was almost intimidating. Beside him, Noah, dressed in a casual leather jacket and jeans, carried a warmth that softened the tension in the room. His messy chestnut hair and easy smile had always made him the approachable one. "Hey, kiddo," Noah said as he walked over and pulled Mia into a hug. "It's good to see you, even if the circumstances suck." Ethan followed, his movements deliberate. He didn't say anything at first, just studied her with a thoughtful expression before giving her a brief but firm hug. "We're here," he said simply, as though that statement alone carried all the weight she needed. They gathered in the living room, the tension palpable. Mia sat curled up in the armchair, clutching a throw pillow to her chest. Liam perched on the armrest beside her, while Ethan and Noah took the couch. "So," Ethan began, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Tell us everything." Mia hesitated, her gaze flicking to Liam, who gave her an encouraging nod. She recounted the events of the day again, her voice shaking at times. She felt exposed, vulnerable, laying out the raw details of Ryan's betrayal. But the Carter brothers listened intently, their expressions darkening with every word. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Ethan leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "This isn't just a personal betrayal," he said, his tone measured. "It's financial exploitation. If he's been using your money for this affair, we need to find out how deep it goes." "Agreed," Noah said, his usually warm expression hardening. "But first, Mia, how are you holding up?" "Really?" Mia blinked, surprised by the question. "I don't know," she admitted. "I feel numb, angry, but mostly I just feel stupid. I should have seen this coming." "Don't," Liam interjected, his voice sharp. "Don't you dare blame yourself for this." "He's right," Noah added. "Ryan made his choices. This is on him, not you." Ethan nodded. "The question now is what you want to do next. Do you want to confront him, take legal action? Whatever you decide, we'll back you." The weight of their words hit her. For the first time that day, she felt a sliver of control returning. They weren't just offering sympathy, they were offering solutions, a way forward. She didn't have to face this alone. As the night wore on, the conversation shifted. They discussed logistics, how to access her financial accounts, how to gather evidence of Ryan's misconduct. Ethan promised to reach out to his legal team in the morning, while Noah offered to stay in the city for as long as she needed. But amidst the planning, there were moments of levity. Noah teased Liam about his terrible cooking skills, and Ethan shared a dry remark about Ryan's lack of subtlety. For a few fleeting moments, Mia found herself smiling, even laughing. It felt strange, almost wrong, to find humor in the middle of her pain, but it was also a reminder that she was still capable of feeling something other than despair. As the night wound down, Liam walked her to her room. "You okay?" he asked as she settled onto the bed. "I think so," she said, her voice soft. "Thanks for all of this." He smiled, his hand lingering on the doorframe. "Always, Mia." As he left, Mia lay back against the pillows, her hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked, a gentle reminder of the life she was fighting for. For the first time since the betrayal, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could find her way out of this. Morning arrived slowly, the soft glow of dawn spilling through the blinds in Mia's bedroom. She hadn't slept much. Her thoughts had been too restless, looping endlessly between anger, grief, and uncertainty. She stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her unborn child's future pressing down on her chest. When she finally swung her legs out of bed, the apartment was unusually quiet. Liam had stayed over, but she suspected he'd woken early and made himself scarce to give her space. The thought brought a faint smile to her lips. He always knew when she needed him close and when she needed to breathe on her own. She padded into the kitchen, where a note on the counter caught her eye. Made coffee. Call me if you need me. Liam. Next to the note was a neatly folded newspaper. Mia poured herself a cup of coffee, the warmth seeping into her palms as she sat at the counter. The silence felt heavy but not unbearable. It was the kind of quiet that made her feel like she was on the edge of something big. She was halfway through her coffee when the intercom buzzed. She set the mug down and pressed the button to answer. "It's Ethan," came the familiar clipped tone. Mia buzzed him in, and moments later he stepped into the apartment, a sleek leather briefcase in hand. He wore another impeccably tailored suit, but his expression was softer than it had been the night before. "Morning," he greeted, his voice steady. "Morning," Mia replied, gesturing for him to sit. "Coffee?" "I'm good," Ethan said, taking a seat at the counter. He set his briefcase down and opened it with practiced precision. "I've been digging," he began, pulling out a stack of neatly organized papers. "Ryan's financial situation is worse than I expected." Mia's stomach tightened. She leaned forward, bracing herself. "What do you mean?" Ethan flipped through the papers, selecting one and sliding it toward her. "He's leveraged your joint accounts for multiple high-risk investments. Some of them have failed. Badly. Others are tied to questionable ventures, including one with a man named Lucas Hayes." The name sent a chill down Mia's spine. "Jessica's father." Ethan nodded grimly. "Exactly. Lucas is known for his shady business practices. Ryan's trying to court him, likely for a bailout, but it's risky. If this blows up, it could leave you in a significant financial hole." Mia stared at the paper, her chest tightening. She felt as if she were looking at a puzzle she didn't know how to solve. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We protect you," Ethan said firmly. "First, we need to isolate your finances. I have a team ready to help you separate your assets from Ryan's. He can't drag you down with him if he fails. And second, we gather evidence," Ethan continued. "If this goes to court, we'll need proof of his mismanagement and infidelity. It won't be pretty, but it's necessary." Mia leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling. The idea of facing Ryan in court, of laying bare the mess of their lives for strangers to judge, felt overwhelming. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, her voice cracking. Ethan's gaze softened. He reached across the counter, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "You can," he said, "and you won't be doing it alone. We'll handle the hard parts. You just need to focus on yourself and the baby." The mention of the baby brought fresh tears to her eyes. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the faint movements beneath her palm. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. "I know," Ethan said quietly, "but you're stronger than you think, Mia. And sometimes the hardest moments lead to the most important ones." After Ethan left, promising to return with updates, Mia tried to distract herself by tidying the apartment. It didn't work. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Ryan, to the betrayal, to the life she thought she'd had. Her phone buzzed, breaking the cycle of her thoughts. It was Noah. She answered, grateful for the interruption. "Hey," Noah said, his voice warm and familiar. "How's it going?" Mia let out a weak laugh. "Oh, you know, just unraveling years of my life one piece at a time." Noah chuckled softly. "That's one way to put it. Listen, I've been thinking. You need a break, some fresh air. How about we go for a walk, maybe grab lunch?" Mia hesitated. The idea of leaving the apartment felt daunting, but the thought of sitting in her own misery all day felt worse. "Okay," she said finally. "Where should we meet?" "I'll pick you up," Noah said. "Be ready in 20. True to his word, Noah arrived 20 minutes later in his vintage Porsche 911. The car was a classic gleaming black with tan leather interiors. It suited him effortlessly stylish, with a hint of nostalgia. As they drove through Central Park, Noah kept the conversation light. He told her about his latest architectural project, a luxury resort in the Hamptons, and shared funny stories from the job site. By the time they reached a quiet cafe on the Upper West Side, Mia felt her shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. Over lunch, Noah leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You know, you're handling this better than most people would." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because I feel like a wreck." "Maybe," Noah said, smiling. "But you're still here. You're still fighting. That counts for something." His words stayed with her long after they left the cafe. That evening, as Mia sat alone in the living room, she found herself replaying the conversations she'd had throughout the day with Ethan, with Noah, with Liam. Each one had given her something she didn't know she needed: clarity, support, and the faint glimmer of hope. She picked up her phone and opened her banking app. It was time to take the first step. The road ahead felt impossibly long, but for the first time she felt like she could take it one step at a time. The next few days unfolded in fragments. Mia spent her mornings combing through financial records with Ethan's legal team, trying to piece together the extent of Ryan's betrayal. Afternoons were a mix of short walks with Liam, calls with Noah about logistics, and stolen moments of quiet reflection. Through it all, her unborn child remained her anchor. Every flutter, every kick reminded her of the life growing within her. It was as though the baby was telling her, "I'm here, and we'll get through this together." On a brisk Tuesday morning, Mia sat in her living room, a stack of legal documents spread out on the coffee table. The Carters' financial advisor, an older man named Walter Harrington, sat across from her, walking her through the process of separating her assets from Ryan's. "Your joint accounts have been frozen," Walter explained, his tone calm but firm. "Ryan won't be able to access them without your consent. This gives us time to assess the damages." Mia nodded, trying to absorb the information. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, a nervous habit she'd picked up as a child. "And the investments he made with my money?" she asked. Walter adjusted his glasses. "We're working on those. Some may be recoverable, but others well. It's likely they're a loss." The thought of her hard-earned savings disappearing into Ryan's reckless schemes sent a pang of anger through her. But instead of letting it consume her, she took a deep breath. "What's next?" Walter smiled faintly, impressed by her composure. "Next, we document everything. Ethan's team is handling that. You just focus on staying strong for yourself and your baby." As Walter packed up his papers and left, Mia felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in weeks: control. It was a small step, but it was hers. That afternoon, Noah stopped by unannounced, carrying a small box. "I have something for you," he said, setting the box on the kitchen counter. Mia raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "Open it and see," Noah said, leaning casually against the counter. Inside the box was a set of high-quality sketchbooks, drawing pencils, and watercolors. For a moment, Mia just stared at them, her mind racing back to a time when art had been her escape. "You used to love sketching," Noah said softly. "Thought it might help you clear your head." Mia ran her fingers over the sketchbook's smooth cover, emotions welling up. It had been years since she'd allowed herself the luxury of creating something just for the sake of it. Life had gotten in the way: work, marriage, expectations. "I don't know if I even remember how," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Trust me, you do," Noah said with a warm smile. "And if you don't, that's okay too. Just try." That evening, after the apartment had grown quiet, Mia opened the sketchbook. At first, the blank page intimidated her, but as she let the pencil glide across the paper, creating soft, tentative lines, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. By the time she set the pencil down, her heart felt lighter. It wasn't just about the drawing, it was about reclaiming a piece of herself she'd forgotten. 2 days later, Mia received an unexpected call. It was Jessica Hayes. "Mia," Jessica began, her voice honeyed but sharp, "we need to talk." Mia's grip on the phone tightened. She wanted to hang up, to avoid the confrontation entirely. But something inside her, perhaps the newfound strength she was beginning to build, made her stay on the line. "I don't think we have anything to talk about, Jessica." "Oh, I think we do," Jessica said, her tone laced with smugness. "Ryan's in deep with my father's company, and it's only a matter of time before he drags you down with him. I'm giving you a chance to step aside gracefully." Mia's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "Gracefully? You mean quietly?" "Call it what you want," Jessica replied. "You're not cut out for this kind of mess, Mia. Leave it to people who know how to handle it." The audacity of Jessica's words sent a surge of anger through Mia. For so long she had let people like Jessica, entitled, arrogant, believe they held the upper hand. But not anymore. "You don't know me, Jessica," Mia said, her voice firm. "And if you think I'm going to let Ryan or your father walk all over me, you're in for a surprise." Before Jessica could respond, Mia ended the call. Her hands were trembling, but it wasn't from fear, it was from the adrenaline of standing her ground. That evening, Ethan stopped by with an update. "We've found more evidence," he said, setting a file on the counter. "It's enough to make a case against Ryan if it comes to that." Mia opened the file, her eyes scanning the documents. Each piece of evidence was like a puzzle piece falling into place. It was overwhelming, but it also gave her clarity. "You're doing well," Ethan said, his tone uncharacteristically gentle. "I know this isn't easy." "It's not," Mia admitted, closing the file. "But I'm starting to see a way forward. And that's something." Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You've always been stronger than you realize, Mia. Don't forget that." As Ethan left, Mia stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker against the night sky. She still had a long way to go, but for the first time she felt like she was moving in the right direction. Later that night, Mia sat in her living room, her sketchbook open on her lap. She drew without thinking, letting the lines take shape on their own. When she finally looked down at the page, she saw the outline of a tree, strong, rooted, unshaken by the wind. It was a reflection of herself, she realized. And as she traced her fingers over the drawing, she whispered, "We'll be okay." The baby kicked in response, and Mia smiled. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could face it one step at a time. The weight of anticipation hung heavy in the air as Mia prepared for the meeting Ethan had arranged. They were going to confront Ryan publicly, strategically, and on her terms. The thought of facing him again made her stomach churn, but it also filled her with a resolve she hadn't felt before. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about protecting her child and reclaiming the life she deserved. As she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her navy blazer, Mia's reflection stared back at her, a woman caught between fear and determination. Her fingers brushed against her growing belly, and she closed her eyes, drawing strength from the tiny life within her. "You've got this," she whispered to herself. It wasn't much, but it was enough to steady her nerves. The confrontation was set to take place at the Carter Foundation's downtown office, a sprawling building of glass and steel that exuded power. Ethan had chosen the location carefully. It was neutral ground, but undeniably intimidating, a subtle reminder of the resources and influence Mia had behind her. Noah met her at the entrance, his warm smile a welcome sight. "Ready?" he asked, his tone light but supportive. Mia nodded, even though her heart was racing. "As ready as I'll ever be." They rode the elevator in silence, the soft hum of the machinery amplifying her thoughts. When the doors opened on the top floor, she was greeted by the sight of Ethan standing at the far end of a sleek conference room, his posture as commanding as ever. Liam was beside him, his expression tense but reassuring. And there, seated at the table, was Ryan. Ryan looked up as Mia entered, his face betraying a flicker of surprise. He hadn't expected her to arrive with such an air of confidence or with the formidable Carter brothers flanking her. "Mia," he said, standing. "What is this? Why am I here?" Mia didn't answer immediately. She took her time, walking to the seat opposite him. When she finally met his gaze, her voice was steady. You're here because we need to talk. Ryan scoffed, his bravado returning. So, this is how it's going to be? You bring in your friends to gang up on me? Ethan stepped forward, his expression cold. This isn't about ganging up on you, Ryan. It's about accountability. We know what you've been doing with Jessica, with Lucas Hayes, and with Mia's money. Ryan's face hardened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his lips curling into a smirk. So what? You think you can intimidate me? I've got connections too. Your connections won't save you, Ethan said calmly, placing a folder on the table. We have evidence of your financial misconduct, including the accounts you've siphoned from. We also have documentation of your failed investments and your inappropriate use of joint funds. Mia watched as Ryan's confidence faltered. His smirk faded, replaced by a flicker of unease. You're bluffing. No, we're not, Mia said, her voice cutting through the tension. She leaned forward, meeting his gaze head-on. You used my money to fund your affair, to chase after some pipe dream with Lucas Hayes. And now you're trying to drag me down with you. But it ends here. For a moment, Ryan was silent, his mind racing as he tried to regain control of the situation. Then he laughed, a hollow sound that filled the room. You're really going to turn this into a spectacle? Mia, you're better than this. No, Ryan, she said, her tone sharp. I'm finally standing up for myself, something I should have done a long time ago. Ryan's gaze darted to the folder on the table. And what exactly do you want? Money. An apology. You think humiliating me will make you feel better? I don't want anything from you, Mia replied. I just want to be free of you and to protect what's mine. Ethan opened the folder, sliding several documents across the table. These are the steps we're taking. Your access to the joint accounts is permanently revoked. Any remaining funds will be transferred to Mia's sole account. Legal proceedings will begin to recover the rest. Ryan's face turned red, his anger bubbling to the surface. You can't do this. We already have, Ethan said simply. And one more thing, Noah added, his voice deceptively casual. Lucas Hayes, he's pulling out of your deal. We made sure of that. Ryan's head snapped toward Noah. What the hell are you talking about? Let's just say Lucas wasn't thrilled to hear about your little escapades, Noah said with a smirk. He decided you weren't worth the risk. The color drained from Ryan's face. Mia could almost see the wheels turning in his mind as the reality of his situation sank in. He was cornered, out of moves. Mia stood, her voice calm but firm. It's over, Ryan. You can keep blaming everyone else, but this is on you. I'm done letting you control my life. Ryan opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. For the first time, Mia saw him for what he truly was, a man who had built his life on lies and manipulation, now crumbling under the weight of his own choices. She turned and walked out of the room, the Carter brothers following close behind. As the elevator doors closed, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Back in the lobby, Liam placed a hand on her shoulder. You okay? Mia nodded, her heart still racing. I think so. You did great, Noah said, giving her a warm smile. Ethan handed her a business card. This is the number for our family lawyer. If Ryan tries anything else, call him. You're protected. Mia took the card, her fingers trembling slightly. Thank you. All of you. The brothers exchanged a look, their unspoken bond evident. Your family, Mia, Liam said. We've got your back. As they walked out of the building together, Mia felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Relief. She still had a long road ahead, but for the first time, she knew she wouldn't be walking it alone. The days after the confrontation with Ryan passed in a haze of quiet reflection and small, deliberate steps forward. Mia found herself savoring the mundane moments, the morning sunlight filtering through her kitchen window, the rhythmic kicks of her baby as she sipped tea, the soothing scratch of a pencil against paper as she filled her sketchbook with shapes and colors. These tiny victories felt monumental, proof that life was moving forward, even if her heart still bore the scars of betrayal. Liam had stayed close, his presence a constant source of comfort. He didn't push her to talk or dwell on the past, instead offering steady companionship that reminded her she wasn't alone. The Carter brothers continued to check in, their support unwavering. But despite the progress she'd made, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ryan's betrayal than what they had uncovered. It was a chilly afternoon when the knock came. Mia was sitting in the living room, her sketchbook balanced on her knees, a cup of chamomile tea cooling on the table beside her. The sound startled her. It was firm and deliberate, not the light knock she'd come to associate with Liam. Setting the sketchbook aside, she stood and made her way to the door, her hand hesitating on the knob. When she opened it, she found herself face to face with a woman she didn't recognize. The woman was tall, with sharp features softened by carefully applied makeup, her tailored coat and designer handbag exuding an air of wealth and confidence. "Mia Lawrence?" the woman asked, her tone polite but clipped. "Yes," Mia replied cautiously. "Can I help you?" The woman extended a manicured hand. "My name is Evelyn Hayes. I believe we have something to discuss." Mia's breath caught. Evelyn Hayes, Jessica's mother. Mia ushered Evelyn into the living room, her mind racing. The woman sat gracefully on the edge of the couch, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. There was something commanding about her presence, but also something deeply unsettling. "I won't take much of your time," Evelyn began, her voice smooth. "I'm here because I believe we share a common problem, Ryan Marshall." Mia's stomach tightened. "I don't understand." Evelyn leaned forward slightly, her expression serious. "Ryan has not only been using your money to fund his reckless behavior, but has also been making promises to my husband Lucas that he can't keep. He's leveraged your accounts, but he's also tried to involve my daughter in his schemes." "Jessica," Mia murmured, her voice tinged with bitterness. "Yes," Evelyn said, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Jessica, for all her flaws, is still my daughter, and I won't stand by while a man like Ryan drags her and you down with him." Mia's mind spun as she tried to process Evelyn's words. "Why are you telling me this?" Evelyn's expression softened, if only slightly. "Because I believe you're the key to holding Ryan accountable. You have the power to expose him, to stop him before he causes further damage. And because, frankly, I don't think you deserve what he's done to you." As Evelyn spoke, Mia realized there was more to this visit than a simple alliance. The older woman's carefully chosen words hinted at something deeper, something personal. "What aren't you telling me?" Mia asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Evelyn hesitated, her composure faltering for the first time. She looked down at her hands, then back at Mia. "Ryan has been stealing from Lucas," she admitted. "Not just money, but information, business plans, strategies, client contacts. He's been passing them to competitors." Mia's breath caught. "Why would he do that?" "Because he's desperate," Evelyn said, her tone cold. "Ryan isn't just trying to secure his future. He's trying to destroy Lucas's empire to replace it with his own, and he's been using Jessica to do it." The revelation hit Mia like a freight train. Ryan wasn't just a cheater. He was a thief, a manipulator who had used everyone around him to further his ambitions. The betrayal cut even deeper, but it also filled her with a renewed determination. "What do you want from me?" Mia asked, her voice low but firm. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. "I want you to take him down. My husband and I have the resources to support you. We can provide additional evidence, legal representation, whatever you need. But it has to come from you. Ryan needs to know he can't escape the consequences of his actions." That night, after Evelyn left, Mia sat in the quiet of her living room, her mind racing. The offer was tempting a chance to not only protect herself, but to expose Ryan for the man he truly was. But it also meant diving deeper into a battle she wasn't sure she was ready to fight. As she wrestled with her thoughts, Liam arrived, his presence grounding her. He listened quietly as she recounted her conversation with Evelyn, his expression darkening as the details unfolded. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. "If it's too much, we'll find another way." Mia looked at him, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. But what if this is the only way? What if this is how I protect my child, my future? Liam's gaze softened. Then I'll be with you every step of the way. The next morning, Mia called Evelyn. Her voice was steady as she said, I'll do it, but on my terms. Evelyn's response was swift and approving. Good, I'll make the necessary arrangements. As Mia hung up the phone, she felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in weeks. The road ahead would be messy, but for the first time she was ready to face it head-on. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore, she was fighting for her child, for her future, and for the life she knew she deserved. The morning of the hearing dawned cold and grey, the kind of day that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. Mia stood in front of the mirror, carefully fastening the buttons on her coat. She took in her reflection, her features steady, her shoulders squared. The woman staring back at her looked different, stronger. This was no longer the Mia who had discovered her husband's betrayal in a dimly lit restaurant. This was someone who had fought her way back to herself piece by piece. Liam appeared in the doorway holding a travel mug. Tea, he said simply, offering it to her. His eyes searched hers, a silent question in them. Mia took the mug, her fingers brushing his. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. You don't have to thank me, Liam replied, his voice steady. I'm here because I believe in you. She smiled faintly, taking a sip of the tea. It was warm, grounding. Let's go. The courtroom was a place of quiet tension, its polished wood paneling and high ceilings amplifying every sound. Mia sat beside Ethan and Noah, their presence reassuringly solid. Across the room, Ryan sat with his lawyer, his jaw clenched and his eyes darting toward Mia with a mixture of anger and desperation. Evelyn Hayes was also present, seated in the back of the room. Her expression was unreadable, but her presence spoke volumes. She had kept her word, providing evidence that further solidified Mia's case against Ryan. The proceedings were thorough, with Ethan's legal team presenting the meticulously gathered evidence. Ryan's misdeeds were laid bare, his financial exploitation, his reckless investments, his underhanded dealings with Lucas Hayes's competitors. Each piece of evidence chipped away at his bravado, leaving him visibly shaken. When it was Mia's turn to speak, she rose slowly, her hands steady as she adjusted the microphone. Your Honor, she began, her voice clear. This case isn't just about money. It's about trust, about the choices we make and the consequences that follow. I trusted Ryan Marshall with my life, my future, and the future of my child. He took that trust and turned it into a weapon, but I refused to let him define who I am or what I stand for. Her words hung in the air, resonating with a quiet power. She glanced at Ryan, who couldn't meet her gaze, and then at Liam, who offered her a small, encouraging nod. The judge's ruling came swiftly. Ryan was found guilty of financial misconduct and ordered to repay the misappropriated funds, though much of the money was deemed irrecoverable. He was also served with divorce papers, which Mia had prepared in advance. As the gavel struck, signaling the end of the hearing, Mia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't just about the legal victory, it was about reclaiming her agency, her future. Ryan left the courtroom without a word, his shoulders hunched, his lawyer trailing behind him. Mia watched him go, her emotions a complex tangle of relief, sorrow, and closure. A week later, Mia stood in her small home office, the morning sunlight streaming through the window. The space was filled with sketches and notes for her branding agency, a dream she was finally bringing to life. She had named it Rooted Design Studio, a nod to the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. It was a message from Liam. Lunch later? My treat. Smiling, she typed back a quick reply. See you at noon. As she set her phone down, there was a knock at the door. Mia opened it to find a courier holding a small package. Delivery for Mia Lawrence, he said, handing it to her. Mia thanked him and closed the door, her curiosity piqued. She opened the package carefully, revealing a handwritten note on thick, elegant paper. "Mia, thank you for your courage. Your strength inspired me to take a closer look at the choices I've made and to make changes where they were long overdue. Consider this a small token of my gratitude, Evelyn Hayes." Beneath the note was a check for $100,000 made out to Rooted Design Studio. Mia stared at the check, her breath catching. It wasn't just the money, it was the acknowledgement, the validation of her journey. That evening, Mia invited the Carter brothers and Evelyn to her apartment for a quiet dinner. It was a simple affair, but it felt monumental. As they toasted to new beginnings, Mia looked around the table, her heart full. Liam caught her eye, his smile warm and steady. In that moment, she realized something that had been quietly growing between them, a connection deeper than friendship, built on trust and unwavering support. Mia raised her glass, her voice strong. "To resilience," she said, "to finding strength when we think we have none, and to the people who remind us that we're never truly alone." Months later, Mia sat in the nursery, rocking her newborn daughter Emma in her arms. The room was filled with soft pastel colors and framed sketches Mia had drawn during her pregnancy. The future still held uncertainties, but for the first time in a long time, Mia felt ready to face them. She had rebuilt her life from the ashes of betrayal, stronger and more rooted than ever before. And as Emma's tiny fingers curled around hers, Mia whispered, "We're going to be okay. Better than okay." The past no longer defined her. The future was hers to shape. And so, Mia's journey from heartbreak to triumph reminds us all of the power of resilience and the strength that lies within when everything seems to fall apart. With the support of those who truly cared for her, she turned betrayal into opportunity and reclaimed her life on her own terms. But what would you have done in Mia's place? Would you have had the courage to stand up and fight back? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of resilience, twists, and justice. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.